2-year contract with the Bucks, according to The Athletic. The brothers last played together in the 2016 FIBA qualifying tournament. We saw them working out with that beautiful backdrop behind them in Greece the other day. Chauncey, is this the Bucks doing everything they can to keep Giannis happy?
Absolutely, man. He should have got a 4-year deal. Got the MVP.
Great to keep him there, right?
Absolutely. They're doing the right thing. Good job, John Horst.
We do see how close they are, Paul. I mean, these guys go everywhere together.
Listen, you got to keep your superstar MVP happy. That means signing his brother, his mother, or whoever. If that's going to keep him happy,
his mother.
You do it. You do it.
Maybe it makes up for not paying the luxury tax to keep Malcolm Brogdon.
Ooh,
man.
There you go. I don't know if it's an even trade, but sure. On the move, Marcus Morris heading to the Spurs, according to The Athletic. Morris signed a 2-year, $20 million contract, with the second year being a player option. Paul, a lot of people wanted Marcus Morris. What do you think of the fit with San Antonio?
Great fit. I mean, high IQ that goes along the lines of, pop players. Guy's versatile, can do it inside and out. I think this is a great pickup. He can help any team right now.
I agree with Paul. I mean, I think this is a really good pickup. You talk about tough, gritty, plays both ends. He was probably the second most consistent player for the Celtics this past season.
Yes.
Why did he go to Spurs? There was a lot of people who wanted him. Why do you think he picked San Antonio?
The market weirdly dried up on him. I mean, JaMychal Green hasn't even signed yet. I thought some of these kind of tweener forwards would get more, but I like Damari Carroll, Marcus Morris, Rudy Gay. You got a lot of versatility with those three. I like what the Spurs did this summer. Very quiet.
I mean, look, plus with their health, right? They're going to get back players that were hurt last year.
Yeah.
That team is definitely going to be playoff
They're going to be a good team. People are
sure,
sleeping
right?
on the Spurs.
Absolutely. Yeah. We just finished one of the craziest weeks of free agency I think any of us have ever seen, being around this game for a couple decades here. Los Angeles has changed significantly. LeBron has another superstar companion in Anthony Davis, and the Clippers became a title contender literally overnight, adding Kawhi and agreeing to a trade for Paul George. All right. So, gentlemen, name your better duo for the next 2 years. LeBron and AD, or Kawhi and Paul George? Paul, who you got?
There's no question Kawhi and Paul George. I mean, Paul George is coming off of an MVP caliber season, and we all know what Kawhi Leonard did in the playoffs and in the finals. Don't take anything away from LeBron. LeBron is still great. AD is still great. But these guys are trending up. I mean, you got two of the top 2 defensive perimeter players in the game right now, 1 and 2.
You know what? I agree.
And I don't know who's number 1.
I agree with Paul Pierce. I would go Kawhi and Paul George only because you got 2 guys in the middle of their primes at the same time. The best two-way players in the game. They can both close a game, and I don't see any ego or any issue going to stand in the way and who's rolling that night. So I would say those 2.
First of all, even if they're on different teams, the answer is Bobby and Toby. Second of all, I'm gonna actually make it unanimous. I'm gonna go Kawhi and PG. I mean, I'm a huge Kawhi fan. I thought he was the MVP 2 years ago. And I guess the tiebreaker for me is LeBron's age,
right,
and a little bit of uncertainty of how much can he bring on defense every night, and is he prone to another injury? I don't know. So I'll go by a little teensy bit Kawhi and PG.
I am curious on both sides where the injury and health issues are going to rest, right? Is Kawhi Leonard going to load manage through this next season again? On the one hand, he's not coming off the same season he was coming off 2 seasons ago. But he said, the reason why I'm in these NBA Finals and able to play is because we did that load management. He was hurt even then, right, guys, during the NBA Finals? So he was still managing. And we heard him at the beginning of the playoffs say, hey, regular season games, those are just like practices. This is the real part of the year. I don't know how do you expect Kawhi to approach this next season?
Well, I think it's going to be easy because he has Doc Rivers there. You know, they're not going to take a chance. They took a big gamble this year getting both of those guys. They want them to be healthy down the stretch, but that's the benefit of having good depth on your team.
Yes.
And they have a good bench. They'll be fine. I mean, he knows, he can tell you more than anything playing with Doc. I mean, I'm sure they'll keep him fresh.
Doc is going to watch this closely. He knows what he has over there. And his whole thing is, let's be ready for the playoffs. We're going to use the regular season to tune up. And once playoffs comes, I want everybody fresh and uninjured. And that's when we make our run, because we all know the team that is not injured is the team that's going to be the favorite. I mean, we see it every year. Injuries are a major factor in the playoffs and the finals every year.
I remember with your 2008 team, Paul, because you guys were an older group, that was the year that Doc started investigating, hey, maybe we won't have morning shoot-around. Maybe we'll do 5 o'clock shoot-arounds instead, that sort of thing, to try to manage
That's when
you
we
guys.
started lessening our practices, wasn't out there as long, took days off. I think that may have been the start of load management. We probably didn't do it as much in the game, but we definitely did during practice.
The answer is going to be in Los Angeles. Whatever Kawhi wants to do, whatever he feels comfortable with, that's what they're going to do. And it'll be interesting to see if they hire more people on their sports science staff, if they hire particular people for their sports science staff.
Are you saying that Alex McKechnie
I don't
could make
know
a
what I
return
don't
to
know
Los
what
Angeles?
I don't know what his contract status is, but I know that if Kawhi says I want that guy, and that guy, those guys are probably going to be there.
Absolutely. It's an amazing era, by the way. In our first segment, David Griffin name-dropped Aaron, who he brought from the Suns over to Lowe. But Alex McKechnie's getting airtime. The training staffs of these teams, the athletic trainers, are a big part of what players feel comfortable about,
Well, it's become a huge deal. I mean, you talk about load management and, paying attention to how many practices the guy practices, minutes he plays in the games. I mean, that trainers, they almost make the active roster, I know a lot of coaches that come in and say, I don't know who's playing tonight. It just depends on what the trainer says.
There's older players that go to certain franchises just because of the training staff. We saw Shaquille O'Neal do that in Phoenix.
Yeah.
When they had one of the top training staffs.
And
Grant Hill did the same thing.
And by the way, that training, that is who Griff was just talking about, who he brought to the Pelicans for that reason. I want to jump to the East too, guys, because you were talking in the break about Philadelphia, and anytime these guys get into a good conversation in the break, we want to bring it on TV. What do you guys think of what the Sixers did this offseason? Do you think they got better or worse?
I'm going lateral. I'm a little more optimistic than these guys are, but I am worried about an issue they're going to bring up, which is crunch time offense was Jimmy Butler do stuff, and they don't have Jimmy Butler anymore. And I'm curious, Horford is a really fascinating play for them. They went all in on size. Josh Richardson, I think, will fit them well, but their offense when it mattered was Jimmy Butler and the J.J. Redick, Joel Embiid two-man game, and those are gone now.
Well, I think it's pretty simple. I mean, I'm not crazy about what they did, even though I'm a big fan of Al Horford's. The Richardson kid is going to be really good, but Jimmy Butler was their heart and soul, offensively and defensively. And if we've seen anything and we know anything in today's game, closers have the ball in their hands. They're in pick and roll, they're in ISO. They don't have that guy anymore.
Why does he keep changing teams? If he's this good, and I think he is this good, I think we know the answer, but this is now 4 teams in, no time at all, you know what I mean?
I think Jimmy Butler wanted to be back. I don't know what happened there, but, I'm not
convinced that's true.
I'm very concerned about this team because the thing I look at is fit. Now, with the way the NBA is going with stretch fours and shooting the 3-ball, you got Al Horford, who obviously can knock down shots. But I like Tobias Harris at the 4 next to Embiid. I'm not sure if I like a lineup with Al Horford and Embiid, especially down the stretch. I mean, they have size, but the shooting's not there, and I'm not sure about the fit. And so I'm going to keep my eye on them this year and at the start of the season just to see, the chemistry between this team and, how the spacing is and without J.J. Redick and having a closer out there in Jimmy Butler.
When you look at all the moves that were made in the East, Zach, do you think that there's a clear favorite of who it is?
You have to go in thinking Milwaukee, but to me it's Milwaukee, and I still think Philadelphia is in that top tier.
Oh, yeah.
And then a lot of question marks. We were talking before. I think we all think Boston's going to be a little better than the consensus, but to me, I guess Milwaukee would be my pick.
Well, I agree. I think Milwaukee is the best team right now. Losing Brogdon would be a big deal.
Agreed.
And actually, who he went to, if Vic comes back healthy, Indiana will be a troublesome team over there. But Boston, I think Boston got better. I really do. They're going to miss Al Horford. But I just think Kemba Walker is going to bring a different energy, a different spirit to that team that will allow those young guys to flourish, in my opinion.
Yeah, Boston, I think everything hinges on the development of Brown and Tatum. I said this. If one of these guys can become an all-star, then I can put Boston into that contending package where you have Milwaukee. Right now, I only see Milwaukee as a contender in the East.
That's it.
That's the only team. Maybe Philly, but
I'm a little higher on Philly.
I don't know. But right now, Milwaukee to me is the only team, but that I have to wait and see what Boston does in their development of these two guys. If they can emerge into an all-star player, then I'll put them right in that boat.
All right, I'm going to throw one more thing into the mix for you guys, though. We were talking in the last segment about Russell Westbrook possibly going to Miami, right? Zach says that's the team that wants him, that's going to try to make something happen. How do you think those two would fit together, and would they then be a contender in the East?
They will be a contender. I don't know. We have to see, obviously if he goes there, some other players got to leave. But the tenacity of those two guys, the heart, will, and effort of those two guys, Jimmy and Russ, being able to play, I just feel like they're going to have a chance every single night. But you got to have depth. You really do. I mean, Jimmy's not a guy that needs the ball every single play for 24 seconds. So I think he and Russell could possibly coexist. But when you have another goon beside you, you feel good going in there at night.
I mean, yes, in the Eastern Conference, they'll be a contender.
Right.
But think about this. Russ has played with KD Harden. He's played with Paul George. I'm not taking anything away from Jimmy Butler, but he's not as talented as those guys. But you are in the East, and because you're in the Eastern Conference, you have a chance.
What would have to happen for a Heat trade to work?
Well, they're hard capped now, so they have to match the money almost exactly. I think Russ is around 39 this year, so you got to find 39, and they have the salaries for it. They got a lot of big, not great contracts. It's not that hard. I do not think they would be a contender in the East with Russ and Jimmy. I think they're a clear tier below. I don't like how they mesh, and to your point, like the KD and Paul George versus Jimmy, there's just a downgrade in shooting. Like, there's just not enough shooting with Russ and Jimmy. So I think they'd be a tough out every night.
It's the Eastern Conference.
Not a contender. I don't think they can win the East.
Yeah, but like after say an injury here or there to Milwaukee, then I think the door is wide open.